and mention names in this forum, because that is the policy of the NPA. But the names have certainly been mentioned in public in this instance, many of the names.
So we're going to have the same situation as we have earlier. I guess it's something we can discuss when we take the name of the prosecutor that has been investigated. I guess you're going to say the same thing about the politicians who you said who were involved in Vusi Pekole's prosecution or withdrawal of charges, his case. That was also a conversation.
He was suspended by the president and the ministers at the ministers.
So you're saying it was the president and the ministers that interfered with the case?
All I said is there was involvement of politicians, because they of necessity suspended him.
The other one, my other question, which was already answered by asked, was the Scorpions versus IDEC question. It was already asked, but in the same breath, the Scorpions was weaponized against factions in amongst politicians, amongst rivals, etc. And that was partly why it was disbanded. I mean, I think that is also a fact. So the fact that we have an introduction of IDEC, it's to serve the same purpose, to serve a faction in the political space. What would you say to that?
With all due respect, Honorable Mathys, I'd say before we say it's a fact, we should have the evidence.
So why do you think the Scorpions...
If I have the evidence, then I might agree with you that it's a fact, but I don't have that evidence.
So when the Scorpions... Okay, let's leave it. It's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we take Honorable James?
Thank you so much, Chair. Advocate Maat almost skipped a beat earlier on when I heard you saying that NPA works very well with SAPs. Maybe if you had said, we work fairly well, but the fact that you say you work very well with SAPs, maybe SAPs in the rest of the country and not in South Gauteng. I want to ask you, was NPA part of the counterintelligence task team?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. We sit on a number of structures, but whether we're on a counterintelligence structure, I'm not aware that we are.
Because I think with all these task teams
I'd be surprised if, sorry to interrupt, Honorable James, I would be surprised if we sit on an intelligence structure, but I must confirm that.
I'm just asking because we were told by previous witnesses that the composition of these task teams would obviously also have a component of NPA. So they would sort of work hand in glove. So you're saying that NPA was not part of counterintelligence. I'm trying to understand General Mkonazi's allegations that there are loopholes and cases were being struck off the roll. You said earlier on we need to follow the money. I'm trying to follow the money with this. And you said that NPA works well with SAPs. Why was the frustration specifically with counterintelligence that was investigating these drug cartels?
Honorable James, I'm not sure what the context of this is, and I'm not aware that we sit on counterintelligence structures. So I need to get that information first before I can understand what the frustration might have been there. But there are so many structures, and when I say we work very well with the police, I mean that they are our closest partner in terms of fighting corruption. And so at different levels, from national through to provincial, district level, local level, there are partnerships and relationships that are critical. They work at different levels of effectiveness, but we generally have good working relationships with the police. It isn't always as effective as we would like it to. So that was the point I was trying to make. But on your counterintelligence, I will have to get information about which structure exactly and whether we sit on that.
I want to disagree with you there because I know of dozens of drug-related cases that were struck off the court roll, specifically in the Gauteng area. And I'd actually like to forward you all those dockets because whenever we have these operations, especially in Gauteng, and I'm especially referred to El Dorado Park, we almost have to beg the courts to basically place those cases on the court roll. But I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it for my questioning. I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Well, Honourable Chair, if I could quickly respond to that, because it's an important issue that you raise, and if there are dozens of cases that are being withdrawn, we do need it to be brought to our attention. We have now put in place in the NPA, we are asking for reasons from prosecutors for every corruption case that's withdrawn. There must be reasons, and for withdrawal of sexual and gender-based violence matters, we're asking for reasons to be submitted so we can check to see what is going on. But if members find this as a problem, I would urge members to please bring it to my attention so that we could look into these matters and deal with any errant prosecutors or investigators as appropriate. Thank you, Chair.
The last person is Honorable Skosan.
Thank you, Chair.
The list is closed.
I've got 3 follow-ups. One, Honorable Brechenbeck asked you about the political interference. What's your view on that, about Advocate Piccoli? I wanted to get your answer clearly. What was your response?
My response was that he was suspended by the President, I assume at the recommendation of the Minister, and to that extent, there were politicians involved. I didn't say there was political interference. I stand to be corrected, but there was involvement of politicians, because that is the way it works.
No, but you did not respond like that, but it's fine. Because she was very specific, hence I wanted to find out a clarity on you on that. But let me just say to you, if you don't believe that, I think you have McCarthy and Bulelani Nguga. You can attest to that if you want reference. The issue of the scorpions, that they were targeting people, is a fact. And when it comes to the IDEC, it's like now it's in a different name. And hence my Honorable James said he will forward you the issue of Gauteng in particular about these drugs issues, cases being withdrawn. Some of us were experienced about that. We are very experienced about that. I mean, we open cases, your prosecutors decline them. You know, in other words, there's a smear campaign. Somebody must go to court several times before the matter is withdrawn or the matter is thrown out. Now, by that time, your character is gone. The perception is everything, especially with politicians. What they do, these factions, when they target advocate, like my colleague has said earlier, especially Honorable Mvalo, especially towards the elections, there's an arrest before investigation. They investigate a person after he was arrested. For the next 5, 6, 7 years, they are saying they are busy with investigation. Why arrest people before investigation? Because they want to destroy you. Now, we are saying because we are living, as you said, in January, other issues maybe are going to be attended by the incoming NDPP, which is unfortunate. But in my view, I'm saying to you, please, in the period which you are still in the office, can you please ask them to treat people fairly? But I'm going to have my question. You'll understand where I'm coming from. To say the rate which you were explaining here, to say you've got 81% success, we'll debate that later. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I may, though, there's been a number of comments that have been made, and I would like to quickly respond to them, because it is important that the correct messaging gets out to the public. Firstly, Honorable Skusana said it was a fact that the Scorpions were targeting. Again, as I responded, I would like to get evidence of that so that we can understand exactly what these facts are based on, and then I can comment on that, and then saying that the IDAC is doing the same. And Chair, I worry that the IDAC has been put together to deal with corruption in this country. I accept that it's a baby. It's still we've just given birth to it. And it seems like we're already having these conversations about targeting, and whether my concerns are that as a country we want to fight corruption, and that if we try to raise these kinds of issues relating to the IDAC, without any substance. And if there are substance and facts, please, I will urge the department to get the investigating judge put in place as soon as possible, because this is the one instrument we have in this country to deal with the scourge of corruption. We need to strengthen it and not weaken it. So I urge that we get facts on that, please, Chair. On the drugs, Honorable Skusana, that's an important issue. If you please, again, please give us that information, because we need to understand exactly what the facts are so that we can properly investigate it and deal with it in the way that results in consequences after a good investigation. And the final comment that Honorable Skusana made was that arrest before investigations, particularly when it comes to election time. Again, please, Honorable Skusana, if you could write to me, send me the facts of these cases, where it's happened, and I give you my assurance that I will look into that and make sure that whatever decisions have been taken correctly, and if not, there will be consequences. But we do need the facts of these matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Honorable Skusana was last on the list. We are now taking the economic freedom fighters, and thereafter we will take a break. You have 40 minutes, start now. It's up until...
I'm going to only be 5 minutes,
It's
Chair.
up until 21 past 6. I mean, yes.
Advocate, there is in your annual report says there was 57.4 million in funding that was received from the federal government of the Republic of Germany. What was that for?
So that is primarily to deal with capacitating the NPA to fight corruption. And to say that, you know, it wasn't money that the NPA received, but we received services that helps us to
In
capacitate the NPA.
Okay. And who conceptualized the project?
It was conceptualized in the NPA.
Okay.
Of course, with the government of Germany.
Okay. Did the NPA approach the Hans Siedel, is it Hans Siedel Foundation? Because this is the NGO that the funding was channeled through. Am I correct?
We worked with the government of Germany, and the government of Germany decided on the partner that will implement in South Africa.
Do you know why they chose the Hans Siedel Foundation?
I have no idea.
You didn't ask?
No, it was the German government. They were giving us the sponsorship, well, the assistance, and I assumed that as a government they would do the responsible thing.
Okay. Do you know that the Hans Siedel, but as part of our government, don't you think you should also do the responsible thing and find out what was the story behind the Hans Siedel Foundation? Because do you know that they also collaborate with News 24?
I'm not aware of that.
And that it collaborates with the Institution of Security Studies that is chaired by a Jackie Salas, who goes around calling for prosecution of members of parliament and engages political discourse.
I didn't know that either, but I'm not sure how that becomes a challenge. It would be good to understand.
So you don't see how private funding can risk the capture of institution, of any institution for that matter, yet alone institutions like our criminal justice system. And we also had our previous Concord Mogoeng, who refused to take private funding as well because of the sacredness of these institutions that we have. And why do you feel differently?
So let me say that with regard to and it's not private funding. We are not getting funds, but we have engaged in innovative partnerships with the private sector to ensure that we get the skills and capacities that we need to assist us in the fight against corruption. The reason why we think this is not problematic is that we put safeguards in place to make sure that we distance ourselves from the funding as such, but also to be clear that this is in line with international good practice. The UN Convention Against Corruption specifically states that it's important for government to actually partner with the private sector in their fight against corruption. So this is an international good practice, and we have engaged in a very strategic way with relevant partners to ensure that we get the capacities, capabilities in the NPA, which in a very financially and fiscally constrained environment, we do not have. So this was actually bilateral meetings that we had with, the government of Germany and the South African government. I understand even ministers been involved. And so we put in place the safeguards to get the assistance to train and capacitate, really bespoke training for prosecutors and investigators in the fight against corruption.
So, Advocate, are you alive to the facts on how foreign governments capture countries? And it starts off, sometimes it's not always in the form of money, but exactly that, it's training. They're training prosecutors of our country. So the issue of being trained, being captured by another government, being in such close proximity, you don't see, leave the UN out. I mean, the UN cannot be our standard, and if we look at other issues on how they handle matters in the country, let's talk about what we need here in the country. We've come out of a country that's both been colonized and through the apartheid. We need to stand on our own feet, and we need to manage. The fact that you even say, Advocate, that you didn't see any need to investigate this organization because you figured that Germany would do the right thing is problematic.
Honourable Member, I can understand the concern that you could have countries that would try to, in some way, influence things in another country. That's, of course, it's possible. But in this case, we control. It's not like the German government or the implementing partner that they chose are the ones that decide on what training we get. The training has been, the manuals have been developed completely by South African experts and prosecutors that sat together for days to develop a complete training manual drawing on our expertise. So it's completely something that's in-house. It is something that we control all aspects of with regard to the training. We even train, we get experts here. It's just the support in terms of getting
It's money,
the funded. I understand that it is money, but it's different where people would go to another country and get training that we have no control over. Here we have complete control over what is happening. We want to ensure that our prosecutors have the necessary capacities, and because of the fact that we are in a fiscally constrained environment, we've been innovative in trying to deal with these gaps to ensure that we can fight this fight properly.
You also said we don't need any more money, and here we are getting 57.7 million from another foundation that you didn't do any due diligence on. And to even go as far as your disclaimer saying we do our own training, we do our own manuals, etc. here, but you've just said, Advocate, that you don't know anything. You didn't even know that it's linked to this Jackie Sellis. You don't know about the Institution of Security Studies that he chairs, and that's problematic.
Thank you. Honourable Member, there's some things about what you said that I know about and other things that I don't know about. So the initial links that you mentioned, yes, I don't know anything about that. But what I do know about is the way we've been working with the government of Germany to ensure that we are able to get the training that we want. And there's other, there are other governments that are supporting other entities in South Africa with things like training. For example, the French government is in a partnership with the SIU to provide training for them. And so I agree, we need to have safeguards to ensure, for example, the things we have put in place. And, my understanding is that the Hans Seidel Foundation has, for decades worked with the German government as a trusted partner. So, I think it's important to understand that their role is an implementing partner for the German government. But we have really, I want to urge, we put in place controls to make sure that we control what happens, and it's not like getting training that's decided on by another government.
And then perhaps, Advocate, if we did more to end corruption, we wouldn't have to be begging with Germany and France and other countries to partner with to do very basic services we're supposed to offer our citizens. It's actually shameful, because I don't think any of those countries take any funding from South Africa to do any services over there. And these are just the bare basic services that we're supposed to offer our country, and we are taking funding from foreign governments to do it. It's quite disgraceful.
If I might respond to that, please, Honourable Member. Two things. I think in the first instance, I agree with you completely that if we could deal with corruption more effectively in this country, it's not just about taking money from other countries to fight corruption. Africa is almost the beggars of the West when it comes to aid and funding. It should never be the case. Africa is a rich continent. We have enough to pay for everything we need. But we become beggars to the rest of the world because of corruption in our countries. And I agree with you completely. If we're able to deal with corruption, we don't need money from anyone in the world. We'll be able to fund all of this. And just to clarify the point I made about the budget, we have for this, as I said, we have funding for budget for this year, but for the outer years, we are going to need a substantial increase in our budget. Thank you.
And this brings us to the next question on corruption. So the Auditor General reports annually that billions of rands are classified as fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Then there's also irregular, unauthorized expenditure across all government entities. So how many cases has the NPA enrolled for violations of Section 38, 39, and 40 of the Public Finance Management Act? Can we get...
Honourable Member, I don't have the stats before me. We can certainly get that.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you have a team and we can submit that, because if we can pursue labor-related cases, I think these are when we talk about corruption. And the more we are pursuing corruption cases and this wasteful expenditure cases, I think we're less likely to find that they continue spiraling. I want to talk about the complaints. In your report, you've also, in your statement actually, on point 52, you've indicated there were 58 complaints that were lodged against prosecutors between 2019 and 2025. And then you've indicated how many were...
The reference? I beg your pardon?
I think it is point 52.
On my affidavit?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. $22. Is it 50? Sorry, Honourable.
58 complaints were lodged, and then you explain what was the outcomes of these 58.
Sorry, the paragraph number?
On paragraph 52. Have you got it? Yeah. So you've got about 3,500 prosecutors. Am I more or less right? And there's about 280 that are on contract. Across the country, how many prosecutors we have?
Across, around 3,500,
Yeah.
yes.
So, Advocate, to say that we've only received 58 complaints for such a long time, it's shocking. I'm sure half of South Africa is falling off their chairs or hitting into some car or taxi right now. It can't be. So there's either two things, and maybe you should look into it or explain. It's either that we don't know where, or South Africans at large do not know where to lodge complaints. The average person on the street, we can just step out here in Cape Town and go and ask anyone what they think about the NPA, and someone will have a story to tell. So to say we only receive 58 complaints means that there's something wrong with the system. And I have a personal experience. I've lodged a complaint against a prosecutor a long time ago. The only time I got a response, and I did it through the right channels, the only time I got a response is when I went on social media. So can you respond to that? Because it can't be that you have that many prosecutors and we only get 58 complaints that you've reported at least?
I will certainly look, the numbers, I agree with you, appear to be low given, the numbers that we have, but I will have to confirm. I imagine that my team have given me the correct numbers. We have on our website, people are able to get complaints. We have an ethics hotline where complaints can be made. If you go onto our website, you'll be able to find it. So, I would imagine that that's the first point of call for people, will be the website to make complaints. With regard to your complaint personally,
It's a long time ago. I've even given up hope.
okay.
But I was using that as an example that I followed up, and I would even still have it, like 3 or 4 times.
I can
only
say,
when I went on social media, then they called me and asked for information about it.
Chair, I take heart in hearing it was a long time ago, so maybe things have changed now. I certainly
No,
hope
it
so.
was during your time, though, but I'll send it through. But I'm saying that that amount cannot be, it's shocking. Your statement also seems that you've made a deliberate effort to demonstrate that there's sufficient oversight at IDEC. So if there was, why was it necessary for us to insert Section 22A? For oversight, because, otherwise we're just doing wasteful expenditure.
That's a very good question. Initially, it was not in. It was raised by the Minister of Police, Minister Tele, because the DPCI has a judge. And so it was in that context that we agreed to it.
So did you agree that there wasn't proper, or the oversight that is needed, that the police have, that IDEC needed?
We didn't see the need for it initially because we felt that there were sufficient systems in place to address misconduct or allegations of misconduct in any part of the NPA. But having inserted it, I think it's actually better to have a higher level of oversight. So I would agree that that's a good addition, which wasn't in the original draft.
On point 34 of your statement, you have recruited investigators from SAPS for IDEC. Was that a wise move to do? Because we already have chronic shortages of investigators in SAPS as it is. And then IDEC has gone to, or you have seconded, and this is from your statement, or you've seconded investigators from SAPS. How does that leave SAPS?
Well, if that didn't happen, the ID wouldn't have been able to work. We would have created an ID that couldn't work. It required partnerships with various other partners in the justice system to capacitate it, because it was temporary at that time, and the numbers were very low. And that's why I mentioned earlier that the secondment model was not going to work, because where you have other entities that are themselves struggling with capacity, how do you expect them to support and assist a new directorate that is required to do work that the country is expecting it to deliver on at breakneck speed? It's just not possible. So under the old structure, it was necessary to get investigators that had the necessary powers and experience. And we are grateful to the DPCI for supporting and assisting the IDAC. Otherwise, it would have been pointless setting up this entity. But now that the IDAC is permanent, we're able to recruit from outside. But of course, it happens in government. People move, we lose people to SARS and the external, partners or businesses. And it happens in government. And that is why I said, unless we regularize the salary issues, it will be easier for people to remain in the entities without moving for other better opportunities.
How many of the investigators that you have now in IDEC, I keep saying the wrong things, have had criminal charges at some point, whether they were successfully prosecuted or not? Are you able to give, I'm sure you don't have it offhand, but if you can get that. And also, how many were dismissed from previous institutions for misconduct? I think that's very important.
We'll certainly get that information. I would be interested in that as well.
Okay, the Scorpions and IDEC we've answered. We want to talk about the former NPA's ID, Advocate Cronje. Is it Cronje? He resigned in 2021. Do you know why he resigned?
She,
She, sorry, yes.
I suppose it would be best for her to answer that.
But, yeah, I know that, but I'm saying, do you know?
I'm not sure what the exact reason was at the end of the day, but I suppose, you know, she had her reasons for deciding it was best to leave the NPA.
Are you aware of the reports where she said she was fed up because there was resistance to bring the right people to book? And do you have a comment on that? Do you know about those reports? Because
I'm not aware of that report.
so
But-
you came in, you didn't know anything, you didn't do any investigations on why she would just resign and just be fed up. We're asking for your opinion here. We're not saying that whatever you say is going to be the gospel truth, but what is it that you got from it?
I think there were frustrations all around, and Advocate Cronje decided it was best that she left.
Do you want to talk about some of the frustrations that she had expressed to you?
No,
Why?
it's her personal reasons, and I think it's best that if she
So
wants
she
to talk
didn't-
about it, it's best that she talks about it herself.
Honorable Adams, so you said you just got a high-level briefing from Advocate Johnson regarding the Khumalo arrest, which stemmed from the cases that Honorable Adams opened. Given hindsight, do you think that do you know, or do you think that there should have been an explanation that Honorable Adams should have given to IDEC on why he was not cooperating with SAPS before IDEC started and pursued the case? Because number one, in Advocate Johnson's statement, she said that the case or the report ended up coming to IDEC after Honorable Adams opened 4 cases. The police tried to contact him. He didn't respond. He came and he lodged a complaint with IDEC saying that the cases were missing, etc. So given hindsight, do you think that this is something that IDEC should have pursued? Are you familiar now that everything has happened? We're talking about hindsight, how IDEC should have handled the complaint.
I don't think it would have precluded IDAC from continuing with the matter because it falls within its mandate. But it would have been good to know why he was not cooperating with the police. I agree.
And have you asked them yet? Because we couldn't get a clear answer.
No, I haven't. I wasn't even aware of that.
Advocate, there's a lot of things you're not aware of. It feels like we are sitting with Lieutenant General Sabia, who was not sure of a lot of things. Let's talk about Lieutenant General Khumalo. When he was arrested, he was banned from going to his office. And Advocate Johnson said that it was because he was going to interfere, or there was a possibility that he would interfere with witnesses who were at the headquarters. Is that not bizarre? Because I don't even see your best prosecutors, when they're dealing with accused child rapists, asking a magistrate to say the bail condition, this accused child rapist must not go to the community where their child is. But it was done in this case. Why wasn't Lieutenant Khumalo not just asked to not interfere with witnesses?
I don't know what the circumstances of this case are, as I explained, and what fears or concerns the IDAC had about the head of an entity being able to influence or interfere with investigations with regard to his subordinates. So given the circumstances of this case, it doesn't appear to be that it was an unusual request, because it appears that whatever took place in crime intelligence, and this is the head. So a lot of the evidence will be in that office.
But, so I'm using it in the same sense of, you don't do that. We have child rapists, family members. You don't get prosecutors doing that and saying that, and you're doing it in a labor-related case. And he wasn't banned from work either, so that's another thing. He was just banned from headquarters, so it's not like he wasn't able to access whatever information. So what Advocate Johnson said was that he was going to interfere with witnesses, not about him accessing information.
That's my understanding. And with all due respect, we do object to bail in cases with regard to the type that you mentioned, where you have rapists, etc. We object. We do that all the time. And a number of them in those cases are in fact kept in custody. But there may be cases where they are released on bail.
A lot, Advocate, but we won't go into it. So on this case also, you don't know. On this issue about the bail condition and them banning him from his place of employment, you're not sure also about this and whether it was not reaching.
All I'm saying is that I don't have the facts upon which the IDAC decided.
So, Advocate, you don't think it's like you knew that you were coming here, you knew that your IDAC head was here, you didn't familiarize with yourself with things that actually is quite bothering.
With all due respect, Honourable Member, those are questions that the IDAC head must answer.
Yeah.
That she actually, the IDAC and the ID deals with these matters. And she would be best placed to answer those questions because I don't have the facts. And so instead of me familiarizing myself with facts, she would be first-hand knowledge to give you the facts.
I agree with that, and she's been here. I'm asking you as her head, after this whole thing has exploded and it's all over, you haven't called her and sat her down and gone through this and see like what has happened, even up to now.
With all due respect, Honourable Member, we've been preparing for this, and there hasn't been much time between her testimony and now.
But even before she came and gave her testimony, these things have been in the media for a long time. So even before she came to give her testimony, I think as our National Director of Public Prosecutors, you should have long sat down and got information about this. I mean, we're talking about, and I'm not saying that Lieutenant General Khumalo must be above the law, but we certainly cannot just have our head of state security just being arrested without, of crime intelligence, I beg your pardon, without you having sat down and gone through it and crossed I's and dotted T's, because it makes us as South Africans feel extremely unsafe.
With all due respect, Honourable Mathys, it is the national directors. I dealt with the powers of an ID and DPPs and what they do. The NDPP is a review mechanism, and therefore the decisions to prosecute, the management of cases, the objections to bail are all operational issues that are dealt with by a DPP or an ID and the teams, not by the NDPP. And these issues have now come up in the context of this, this hearing. But those are issues that reside solely, they're operational issues. And the National Director needs to, of course, be briefed at a high level. But the operational matters are for the teams and the DPP to deal with. That is their power and responsibility. But of course, if they do something wrong, then you're right, the National Director must get involved and understand what is going on.
So how would you know if they did anything wrong if you, after you see all this and you don't call them and you don't get a briefing?
Well, if there are complaints about it, is one way of understanding that things have gone wrong. But otherwise, we must respect the authority that the Act gives to people to do their jobs.
But the issue is not saying that you must interfere. As you said, there's nothing wrong with saying, come and give me a brief on what happened here. You don't have to give instructions, but to understand and to be able to guide. And those are two very different things. And it is within your mandate to be able to make sure that our national prosecuting agency is working and operating as highly functional as possible. Let's move on to the case of
If I can just comment on that. I think
Sure.
it's important that to understand that I do receive reports, and it's important, especially when there are high-profile people involved, that the NDPP is properly briefed and understands, and we don't have rogue elements in the NPA doing what they want to do. So there is that level of supervision of a national director that is critical in these cases. And so I got the briefing from Advocate Johnson, but reasons why they objected to bail, they will understand from the circumstances of this particular matter.
You've indicated that you got intelligence from Lieutenant General Kamalo about the corrupt or alleged corrupt prosecutor. Was this the first time that you received intelligence from SAPS regarding prosecutors, including from the National Commissioner?
To my knowledge, yes, but I think this is the first time.
What was the minister's response? What was the minister's response when you told her about the intelligence report that you got from SAPS about?
She was very concerned about it.
Okay. And the president, when you met with him?
He was also concerned about it.
And what was besides him being concerned, he's always concerned and shocked. We know that as a country. What guidance did he give in the matter? What guidance did the president give in the matter?
Well, I had reported it to him, and it was now for the president to take it further. There was nothing further I could do about it.
Brian Pariachi, Advocate Johnson said that he was in his position before she got into office. Do you know anything about his appointment? Apparently he was headhunted to join.
Yeah, he was
IDEC.
appointed when Advocate Cronje was the ID.
He was appointed when who, sorry?
The previous ID, Advocate Cronje.
Oh, okay. So do you know anything about, were you part of the appointment? Did you know anything about it?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't briefed or anything about it?
I wasn't.
You wrote to the president, I think this point has been, or this question has been asked a few times about Advocate Chakwe. I just wanted to know whether he was involved in any bail matters concerning Mr. Molefe. Do you know, or can you check?
I'm not aware.
Will you be able to check and come back to us?
I can check. I would be surprised if he would personally do a bail application. It's unlikely, but I don't know. As the DPP, he has a role to play.
But you will be able to see if there's a pattern, if it's the same, because these are things I would have thought should have been done by now, given how these matters have been circulated so much. And then, well, I guess the same applies to Makhala as well, if you can also just find out if there's a pattern, because a lot of his cases were also withdrawn. So just to see if
We've looked into that, and I have a list of all the cases that were withdrawn. We are calling for the dockets. The police have sent some dockets. They're looking for others. And we are checking to see whether there's a pattern, who was involved, what were the reasons for the withdrawals, etc.
Okay.
So that work is underway.
Okay, so are we able to be furnished with that? I would have thought our evidence leaders would have asked those questions as well.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
I'm saying, are we able to get a copy of that, of all the cases
I don't
that
see-
were withdrawn regarding?
I don't see why not.
Okay, thank you. And I'm done. Oh, no, I'm not done. Let's also just go back quickly to, we were talking largely about corruption cases, particularly around politicians or politicians that are well connected. So let's talk about the PPE cases and the CR17 cases, NPA. on that?
The question is?
On PPA cases, PPE, sorry, I'm saying PPA, PPE cases, how many of those have been prosecuted, successfully prosecuted? Because it's talking about corruption during COVID.
I don't have the figures, but I know that the Fusion Center at the time was coordinating the response to PPE-related corruption matters, but we can get those figures very easily.
Okay, and then the CR17?
What about it?
The money, we had bank statements that were sealed. What, did the NPA play any role in that?
No.
It just went straight to a judge and they sealed. There
We had
was
no role
nothing.
in that.
There's never been a case that has been opened regarding the CR17
We had no role in that.
at all. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Can I check, honorable members, if you want to ask follow-up questions? Honorable Nombalo, Honorable Shongwe, the list, okay, Honorable Skosana, the list is closed.
No, thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to raise my discontent on the observation that I've made. I think we're having a stagnant interview with the NDPP because earlier when I was speaking to her, I had put to her the powers that she has to supervise IDEC and the DPPs. Ultimately, we agreed and she undertook to improve in future. That is where we left it. Now, when Honorable Mathys asked her about what she did after she learned about what happened in IDEC, she says she goes back to the same position that she was in to say, no, that is an IDEC issue. I can't intervene. You must let people do their work. So really, I'm very disappointed because I thought we were getting somewhere with the NDPP. Now, the question is, NDPP, is IDEC an entity falling under the NPA?
Yes,
Do you have a responsibility to supervise it?
I do, within the context of the law.
How often do they submit reports to you?
I get monthly reports from the IDAC.
You get monthly report. Do you agree with me if I say, notwithstanding monthly reports that they submit to you, you also have a statutory responsibility to summon any report regarding any prosecution and any case that you deem necessary at that time? The statutes, the NPA Act gives you that power.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Shongwe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to ask about this regarding the matter of this funding. You see, Chair, it is known that throughout the world, intelligence agencies usually channel funds through this organization. They never fund an individual or government directly. They fund through these agencies. The crux of the matter is that this foundation channels funds on behalf of chairmen which are hostile on our system. So I beg to understand, accepting such fund, where is it helping us? And if I may ask, is this German fund that you guys are talking about, did they fund the CR17 campaign? And just one last question, why is Maumela not arrested, even Namansh? Thank you, Chair.
On the first question, I explained when I was asked about the very bespoke training that we are putting together, where modules have been developed for prosecutors to really strengthen their ability to prosecute complex corruption cases. So this is helping us in that regard, and it's also about sharing and learning best practices from other parts of the world, so that we can also improve by taking on some of those practices. On the CR17 campaign, I don't know. I don't have that information. And on Maumela, once the police have investigated that matter properly, I don't know at what stage of the investigation it is. I have no information about it. But no doubt the prosecutors are working with the police and on this big matter. And when the evidence meets the standard, I'm sure they will do what is required of them.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. Advocate, I'm disappointed as well, like my other colleague. It's not personal. That
Don't take it personally.
that you don't want to take accountability for anything. The issue of IDEC, that it falls under you. When IDEC fails, it means you have failed. Am I right?
You're right.
Now, the issue of funding, I wanted to make that follow up. Because we've seen in this country, I'll give you this small background for a second, that there's an organization in this country called civil society called themselves different foundation, Helen Suzman, there was Brent Hest, I think is disbanded. You have your one apartheid judge, Judge Krichler, running a so-called corruption watch, and others, you know, who have been funded. Now, if NPA, besides the issue of staying off, because I think NPA explained about that, the money went to DPCI, you know, that 80 million of staying off. And I'm not sure whether we were told the truth there as well. But be that as it may, are you not worried? And if I may ask, perhaps for us to be quick on this one, how much have you received, or NPA have received so far in terms of funding? And which organization, in terms of names, who funded, if there's any, who has funded NPA?
NPA does not receive any funding at all. I want to be very clear about that. NPA does not receive any money, but we receive services. And these are disclosed in our annual report. We're very transparent about this.
Yeah, but let me say this to you. Service, there's value on service. There's nothing for free. I mean, a person might want favors, like what a Judge Mkhweng, the former Chief Justice, said, that there's no free lunch. And I'm saying, I can say I'm volunteering, but volunteering, at the end of the day, there's value for money in that. You know, you might not quantify it now and say X amount of money, you know, these people have spent so much. Staying off, we're very clear that we are putting 30 million rand for you to give Price Waterhouse for forensic investigation. But with you, what we are saying now, I'm not disputing that, but I'm saying, in the high side, don't you think that indeed as well, the state must be able to cater for its own citizens. Citizens are paying tax in this country. You know, I know funding, because remember, Advocate, that one day you'll be funded by drug dealers. They say, no, we are offering a service. We're not giving you money. We'll send X, you know, we've got a professional, we've got advocate so-and-so, we've got a professor so-and-so, we've got doctor so-and-so. They want to come and help NPA. But those people who have been seconded to you have been funded by drug cartels. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I should say that we are not oblivious to the fact that we must make sure that there are safeguards to ensure that there's no such thing as any form of capture. The NPA must do its job without fear, favor, or prejudice. And we have always, you know, disclosed our donations or whether you're right, it does have a monetary value to it, but we do not receive funding, and we are transparent about any support and assistance that we get from external partners. And I do want to emphasize, you know, we are required, we have to have safeguards to ensure that we are not beholden to anyone, even to people that assist us with funding. And therefore, we've put in place safeguards to ensure that. And in a financially and fiscally constrained environment, we need to ensure that we have all the skills, capacities, and we try to be innovative about how we do it so that we can deliver to the people of this country. And your last point, I agree with you 200%. The state must be able to fund and pay for all our services. And if we don't have the levels of corruption in this country where people are stealing blind from the people of this country, we shouldn't have to go to anybody for any support.
Honorable Malema.
No, thanks, Chair. I was not going to ask any question, but I've got a big problem where you earlier said you don't need money, you are sorted, maybe in the future years you'll need money, and then you go and take money in kind from the Germans. That is a huge contradiction. Because if there was a need for any kind of training to be provided by NPA, you would have budgeted for that to avoid getting money from foundations that you have not even vetted. It must be, and the most embarrassing thing, I don't know why you're doing this to us. Maybe I was saying to one of my colleagues here, you are really answering like a person who's going on retirement. It's like you don't care. You don't care what happens. How do you come here and you say you don't know who gave you 50-something million? You have not researched them? What if these people are chaired by Ket Matlala? And you are going to hear it for the first time sitting here, that you are actually receiving money in kind that goes through a foundation that is chaired by Pet Matlala. And then you say, I don't know. I don't know that. For an institution like NPA, you ought to take very serious who becomes your partner, both in monetary terms and even in kind. We were sitting here, we had evidence of Matlala being solicited to finance a presidential campaign of one of the ministers. And therefore, it can't be far that NPA can also be captured by the same people. So I'm really saying, Advocate, you have done a disservice to us. You tell us you don't need money. You are rocking. You are cruising nicely. You can try next year. Maybe other years. This year we're fine. Then you come, you say you're taking donations in kind from the Germans. And you keep on saying to us, we're not receiving any funding. As if we don't know the difference between donation in kinds and donation in money. It doesn't matter whatever form it takes. It has got monetary value. And you have accepted it after you said to us, you don't need money. To an extent that Advocate Bredenbach said, oh, we shouldn't fight for you in the Justice Department for more money. Because it should be something that we pride ourselves with, that we don't take money from foreign countries for the sake of our own sovereignty as a state, especially an institution like NPA. The last point I want to make again, Advocate, you say, we ask you about Malema. It's such a huge case. Actually, we must be embarrassed that cars are taken, houses are paraded and all of that. There's no criminal case. And then we ask you, when are you coming for Malema? You say, when police are ready. That is a pure, completely pure than white corruption case of a hospital called Tembisa. Why should we be told about police when IDEC deals with those matters? It is IDEC that should have actually even developed an interest on its own that this is too huge to be left. These are the kind of cases we want. As a head of NPA that IDEC falls under, surely you should have developed an interest and said to IDEC, 680 million gone to skinny jeans, a hospital ordering skinny jeans, and a head of NPA, it doesn't matter, head of IDEC. You are the corruption buster yourself because all of them fall under you. You should be able to say, come here. What happened with this case of people buying patients' skinny jeans? Because when we go to hospitals, we normally get those gowns which are open at the back. What does a patient do with a skinny jean? That should have been an issue of interest for a corruption buster. We asking you, what are we doing up? We say, no, when police are ready, when it's ripe, then it will come to us and all of that. That's not a matter to be left to police. That's a typical example of cases that IDEC should be dealing with, not human resource. We have a case here, big case of human resource, that a CV does not have an address or something like that. It's a criminal case. But here is a case of 608 million, close to 1 billion, only that which we can account for now. And worse, through this body, not asset forfeiture unit, the one of Kaiser Khanyawa and them. SIU. We hear from SIU that we are now sitting at almost 680 million. That's what SIU can uncover. Imagine if IDEC is there, crime intelligence is there, we're going to get more than 1 billion of one individual involved in corruption. The head of NPA says, well, we don't know, we'll wait for the police. That's so disappointing to tell the truth. Thanks.
If I can deal with that, there are two parts. Firstly, on the German funding, just to say that this project was a long time coming. It's not like we initiated it now. It's probably taken about 3 to 4 years to come to fruition. So it started at a time when we really needed the funding. So, you know, it took about 3 or 4 years before that came to fruition. It's not a new thing. So on the issue of IDAC, I agree with you that these are the kinds of cases that IDAC should be doing. IDAC has got limited resources at the moment. They are barely able to deal with the cases that they want. And I think this is the role of this committee, would be to strengthen IDAC, to give them the resources and all of the capacities, capabilities that they need. Because I agree with you completely. This is the kind of case that IDAC should be investigating. Thank you.
So can you please say